Okay, this is a lot quicker assignments, not as much little every step. So we're solving for x to the x here, and there's two answers. But here's a question: do we have any powers that are not to the second? No, we don't. All we have is x to the second, so we don't need to set it and use the boxes in that instance. We just have to find what number times itself is 9. So take out your multiplication table and look down again down that row of numbers in bold from 1 to 225. Okay. And those are numbers that are perfect squares, meaning there's a number times itself that gives you that multiplies to that. So here's 9. 9's in that, because remember 9's a number. 9, 3, 3. So the answer is 3, but it could also be negative 3. Because the second power means a number times itself that equals 9. Well, 3 times itself is 9. But so is negative 3 times itself. Okay? All right, now turn the page. Don't worry about the rest of that. Here's the problems you're going to be doing. Now, I screwed up this one right here. Instead of a 128, that's supposed to be 127. 127. So 5x to the second power minus 3 equals 127. There are two answers. But here's the deal, okay? Do you have any x's that are not to the second power? No, you don't. So what you do is what's called isolate x to the second. So you're going to dot the x to the second just like you normally would, and then go write x to the second down here. So we got to get that x, isolate x to the second. So, because that's the only power of x I have. So I have a minus 3. Well, I would add 3 then. And 127 plus 3 is 130. Okay, so I dot it. Now I divide just like I do with other equations. And then my x to the second's by itself. We just need to divide 130 by 5. And it's 26. Don't write 26 in your answers though. Because now you got to figure out the number times itself that equals 26. Problem is, I saw 9 on the last one, but I don't see 26. Okay? So what I do is I do a square root on my calculator. Square root both sides technically. And that gets the x by itself is all that does. And that finds my answers. Because the square root and the second power cancel. And that just gives me x. Now remember how to find the square root of 26. You go second. You got to hit the second button at the top. And then this key here, it's the fourth key up because there's a square root, but it's above the key, so that's why I have to hit second. Hit that button, square root pops up, and enter in 26. It's a decimal. It's going to be a decimal when it's not on this list, so 5.09. You could also go 5.10 if you wanted to, and the other answer is negative. That's all there is to it. It's not a lot of work. Now my next problem. I see two answers, but do I have any x's not to the second? No. This is the only x I have. It's to the second, so I can isolate x to the second. I don't need to, and then we dot and circle, okay? So first I'm minus 2. Now we need to make sure we take negative 194 minus 2, and that's negative 196. So negative 7 dot x to the second equals negative 196. Then I divide by negative 7. Those cancel, and that gives me x to the second. Now I take negative 196 divided by negative 7, and I get 28. Now, what number times itself is 28? Oh, I don't see it again. So I need to use the square root operation over both sides. That cancels, and that just gives me x. Now to find the square root of 28, I need my calculator because I can't tell by looking at this list. So I go second, then the fourth key up, and then 28. So 5.29, but we could also have a negative 5.29. Okay, 3x to the second power plus 2 equals 56. Two answers. Do I have any x's not to the second? I don't, so I can isolate the x to the second. So write that, and then dot and circle. Plus 2, so we need to minus 2. 56 minus 2 is 54. Then divide by the front multiplier, just like normal. It's the same as like a normal. You don't have your answer yet because you got to do the figure out what to the second is that. So 54 divided by 3 is 18. Now is 18 on my list of numbers here that I just know instantly? No, it's not. So I need to use the square root operation, and that gets the x by itself. Now I find the square root of 18. So I go second, the fourth key up, then 18. 4.24 could also be negative. Go 2 decimal places out when you do that. Okay, my next problem. 2 answers. This one's slightly different. It's not going to be as many steps. Do I have any x's not to the second? No, I don't. So again, isolate your x to the second. Okay. So dot and circle. Now this one you don't have any plus, you don't have any minus, so you go straight to the dividing part. And 80 divided by 40 is 20, so x to the second is, and after I divide I can go over here. Because there's x to the second, nothing, no other operations with it. 80 divided by 40 is 20. Okay, now, is 20 on my list of perfect squares? No, it's not, okay? So I'm going to need to, again, use the square root operation to solve that problem, okay? So I go second, fourth key up, and the square root of 20. It's always going to be a decimal if it's not on this list. So 4.47 and negative 4.47. Remember, you got to square root. After you divide, you don't want to write your answer. That's why you put the x to the second down so you know G. Okay, next problem. 2 answers. Do I have any x's not to the second? Nope. So I put a 1 dot and circle. So I got a minus 4 to deal with. So first I add 4, and that's 180. Oh yeah, by the way, write your x to the second down. As soon as you say G, that's my only x, okay? And then divide by 1. After I divide, I come down here at 180 divided by 1 is 180. I'll see if 180 is in that group of numbers. It's not, so I use my square root operation to figure it out. Okay, so that gets, you have x now by itself. So I go second, fourth key up, 180. Okay, 13.41 or 42. You could also go negative. Okay, next one, 2 answers. So dot your x. Oh yeah, by the way, 2 answers. There are x seconds, no other powers. X isn't to any other power but the second. So let's get x to the second by itself. Then I can use the chart, okay? And if the chart don't work, I got my calculator. So circle, minus 3. Negative 21 minus 3, that's negative 24. So we have negative 2 times x to the second. That's what dot means, is times. And then negative 24. Then we divide by negative 2. And now x to the second's by itself. So after I divide, I can go here. So negative 24 divided by negative 2 is 12. Now what number times itself is 12? Well, 12 is not on the list, so I'm going to have to use the square root operation to figure that out. Okay. So now x is free. And I go second, fourth key from the bottom. 3.46. You could also have negative. Okay, next problem. There's two answers. Do I have any x's not to the second power? No, I don't. So I'm going to isolate x second. I'm going to write x second equals dot and circle it. So minus 2, and that's 16. So 4 times x to the second equals 16. Then divide by 4. And now after I divide, I come here to this one. Okay, so 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now what number times itself is 4? Well, 4 is in the loop, so it's 2 times 2. So the answer is 2 or negative 2. Okay, last one. Two answers. Dot and circle. You got, because you're going to get x to the second by itself, because x isn't to any other power but the second. So minus 6, minus 6. So negative 24 minus 6 is negative 30. Then divide by negative 3. And negative 30 divided by negative 3 is positive 10. So x to the second power equals positive 10. Now what number times itself is 10? I don't know just by looking at this, because 10's not in the loop. So I use my square root operation. Okay. And I find the second, fourth key up. Square root's always the second, and then the fourth key up. 3.16. Or negative 3.16. Okay, and you have problems to do on your own, but they go pretty quick.